Unmute.
Yeah, status-wise, we're working through the process. So the next stage, he gets confirmation of an appointment. He got the approvals. So, we are trying everything with him and with everybody involved to try to get that appointment before Saturday. So that's what um, we're hopeful. We're not certain, but we're hopeful that that could take place, and we'll see if it does. That's kind of, he has to get a little ways away here to get to the appointment, so hence the reason he's not sitting next to me right now is we're trying to get to that appointment and get that situated. In terms of what we've seen from him, wonderful young man, vibrant, great personality. You can see him on the field when he's working, just the quickness, shiftiness with the ball, obviously the technical ability that's there, which we know. So just look forward to seeing him kind of integrate into the larger group and how his dynamic way of playing can, again, speed up our team a little bit on the attacking side, give us a little bit more of that, some more in the final pass, final action, but also just in speeding up the tempo of our play. I think that's where we're at our best when the ball's moving quick and guys are playing off of each other, moving through spaces, creating uncertainty for the defensive team. Obviously, he's used to being where he was, having to work on both sides of the ball. So I'm confident in his capacity to transition quickly and do the defensive work and all of those things.
Greg, so the next 2 days you consider probably important for him to play on Saturday? Today and
Yeah,
Friday?
yeah, for sure. I mean, I think obviously today and trying to get the visa across the line, get that final piece done, or tomorrow, whatever that looks like. From a fitness standpoint and the work he's done on the side, I don't see an issue. He's been training. He's physically ready. So now it's a visa game, and we'll see what happens. And then how we would integrate him in the weekend sort of depends on whether we get that across the line or not, and all that. So
How confident are you that you guys can get this done?
it's tough to say. I feel like the process is making progress this week. That was said at the beginning of the week, very low. But now that these approvals are kind of coming in day by day, I feel like there's reason to have optimism, but I'm not certain. So
Can you see him starting on Saturday if everything comes into place, or is he somebody who's more likely to come off the bench?
I mean, likely off the bench, given the grand scheme of things. We'll see if things happen tonight and he can integrate fully into training tomorrow and all that kind of stuff. But generally speaking, I think we want to take the right process with this, and we'll just see how things play out. But generally speaking, I would think probably integrated.
Well, and given where he's going to play and what he's going to do, you want him to be as in tune with the other attackers as you can.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, I think his style of play, the where he comes from, the fact that he is a hyper-aware player, I think the integration with other people isn't going to be really difficult. I think it's something that can happen quickly because I think he fits the profile of the guys that we like to have in that position, and guys are kind of similar to him. Again, so yeah, I think he needs to have some opportunity to integrate with the group and get to know each other. But I don't think the integration for him will take much time. Let's put it that way.
Why do you think he's the right guy for this spot right now?
I do. I think in terms of how we would like to play to get to the shape that we would like to ultimately get to be able to move the game, to be a possession-oriented team. We need a third midfielder in there that has a high percentage of passing, but is also a connector with the other guys, because Markey is a speed of play type of player. Gaston is a speed of play type of player. Getting another guy who plays at speed, but maybe more on the attacking side, plays a little bit between the lines, will run through the back line, who picks up the ball on the dribble and moves with it, because that's not really Mark's strength, and Gaston sits a little deeper. But having somebody who can shift past the midfielder and get to the next line and force the defending line to have to make some decisions with this quickness and sharpness, those are all things that I believe this group needs. We haven't had it. Even Vic, who is our vision guy and final passer, he's not really a guy who slips into the next line on the dribble and eliminates guys off of his dynamic movement. He's a guy who has the game mapped out in his eyes, and he sees everything that's going to happen. But this is the guy who eliminates people on the move with the ball and creates the next dynamic for the back line. So now if he can get to the next line, defenders have to figure out how they're gonna defend him, which opens up your forward, which opens up your wingers, which opens up your opportunities. And he has that kind of dynamic capacity to get us into that next line clean. And that's where I think he can really change he can change a bit of our midfield dynamic.
Do you see him as a pure 10 or as a 10-8 hybrid or?
Yeah, I think depending on the scenario, he could play up underneath the striker and work between the lines, depending on where the spaces are, where the gaps exist, depending on how oppositions are playing us, or kind of tilted off to a side into one of the half spaces. I think he's comfortable with either. So I think, again, it really depends on where the gaps are between the lines, and how the opposition is trying to defend us will help determine which pockets he can set up in and what is most effective for him.
And as the midfield kind of solidifies in the way that you want them to be positioned and the way you want them to play, how does that impact your decision on whether to go with two strikers, how you use the wings, because that's where a lot of the key stuff is going to be, the decision-making is going to be taking place?
Yeah, I think one of the important things for us is that we have good connections through our midfield, that we are able to overload the right areas of the field at the right times, whether that be the width to get across the middle, to get from one side to the next. So I think, we haven't, in my opinion, we've had moments where we've been dynamic or really effective in the two-forward system, and that's been against certain opposition sort of systems or setups. But there's other times where I feel like we lack the numbers in the midfield to really be able to unbalance, to be able to possess and connect the way we are. And sometimes when we lack those numbers, we also show vulnerability on the defensive side, I think, sometimes. And so for me, what's important, again, is that we get good control of the middle of the field, because I think it helps to protect our defensive group. I think it helps us to play through our different principles of play. How we will set up is, to try to help us get the right overloads in the right areas of the field, to get the ball moving as quickly as possible, to set up for our guys who can get in behind the back line and give us as clear a chances as possible. But there's also the other side, which is we've got to stop conceding goals. So it's also to make sure that we set up in a way that protects our back group and minimizes the amount of times that they can get exposed, but also they have to do their part too in that side.
Ryan certainly contributed a lot to this team in the last 2 years. Just your thoughts on his time with the team? And it just sounds like he leaving really is situational about international spots and so forth like that.
Yeah, it's many things, but yes, I mean, he came in and obviously he had a solid impact in our group. He's a physical player who can run and cover ground, and he won some duels for us. He came in as a 6, but you could see through his time here that wasn't really his comfortable spot, and so it was always like trying to fit a little bit of a square peg in a round hole, because when I play him at the 6, you could tell emotionally he wasn't satisfied with that role, and he felt like he could do more. So in the process of trying to get a 6 in, which we didn't do in the summer and the winter window, which we really wanted to do, meant that he had to sit a little bit deeper with Mark. But then at times you start to see we lack, because without Victor being available all the time or whatever piece, we start to lack a little bit of that playmaking role. So then there was a thought process between going to a working midfield with now Gaston and them. But then again, the opportunity exists, and for Ryan too, I think for his mindset, he had the opportunity to go back to Europe came, which was one of the things we really talked about when he came. There was, I don't know how many people know the story, how public it is, but when we were first courting him to come, he was a little hesitant because he was a younger player in Europe and not sure if coming to North America to further his career and then go back to Europe was the best path. And so he agreed, then he was like, well, I'm not so sure. And then in the end, he agreed to come. And then this was now an opportunity for him to go back to be in League One versus in League Two. So he did take a step forward in terms of that. So this was for him also an opportunity to fulfill what he believed he was trying to do, which was come here, be successful, add more to his game, go back to there. And it coincided with our ability to pick up the number 10 that we maybe were looking for. And we were able to get a young man who has a huge, bright future, which is also something that's important. We're still trying to build on our younger core and still build towards sustainability and success over the long haul, and not not just, we're not just in a sprint, you know, but we're trying to build a good core of young players who can grow together.
We'll now open it up for questions on Zoom. If you have a question on Zoom, please use the raise hand function. We'll go with Josh Gessman. Josh, go ahead.
Hey, Greg, thanks for talking to us. Appreciate it. Just wanted to know how you arrived at Riqui and how that whole process sort of took shape, the sequence of events that get you to a very young player on a Barcelona side.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, we were in this window looking at a couple things. One was to get Gaston here, who we had tried to do for a year and change. That we were able to solidify pretty early on. The second piece was if we could get to one more, which we were really trying to get to a number 10, if that was possible. We were in conversations with a couple different opportunities. We had dropped, I think Jovan and the guys had dropped in with Barcelona, who they have, some contacts there about certain players. And Riqui being a number 10, he wasn't in the team all the time. It was, sometimes it's a little bit of a long shot, but if you don't swing, you don't know. That was the same idea we had at Toronto when we got Giovinco. If you don't take a swing, you'll never know if you can get it done. And so the pieces worked together. He was a young man that they were looking to get to somewhere else to get games to play. He saw the project and his family saw the project as something that was really beneficial and exciting for him. And at the end, we had the ability to move Ryan, which was to open up essentially what became like a max TAM spot, essentially, which was if you're interested and you want to come, this is what we have, and this is what the process and the program would look like for you. We see you as a number 10. We see you as a guy who can help really orchestrate our final attacks, we think can grow in our environment, because we will be more dependent on him in those final actions and to develop that part of his game than maybe he would be if he were at Barcelona, per se. That's not the role he's expected to play at Barcelona, which is to be the final passer, the playmaker, and all that kind of stuff. But he comes here, and he's that guy for us and can really, I think, grow in that space. Some of the agents that work with him, they're very aware of, the time that I've spent with Victor, and Victor working with us in Toronto and here, so they are very aware of the style of play that we like to play and how I manage and how I work with the players and our training environment and all that stuff. So for them, the agents thought this was a great position for the young man. The family saw it as a really good opportunity. And Riqui was super excited, and so then the pieces fit together. And for us, we were excited because, these are not situations that happen often, and when they do, it's pretty amazing. And obviously, we were able to pull through. And he's had dinner with them and his family the other day, and he's been around here, and he just has this nice youthful energy, but also this. There's just a passion to play, and obviously the ability will speak for itself when he gets on the field. That's nice to have in our group.
And if I can follow up, just about the TAM contract, the fact that you only had a set amount, and that what looks like taking a pay cut of some sort to come and play here for the LA Galaxy, that also shows sort of the dedication to coming to MLS?
Yeah, it shows his belief in this as a good step for him. Sometimes you just want to get into the environment that you believe is best for you, an opportunity where you can enjoy football, grow in the football spirit, or in the ways that you feel like you can get better. All those things fit into this, and I think between his family, who seemed to be a big part of the decision-making process for him, and himself and his supporting cast, which are his agents, they all felt like this was exciting for him, regardless of what the money was, that this was a good career and a good life move for him right now at this point in time. And so you never know when all those stars are going to align. Again, sometimes you take the swing and you try to put your best foot forward, and he certainly showed that commitment on his side, that this is something that that he is excited about and wants to do, and the pieces fit together. So couldn't be more happy, and I hope he comes here and he's hugely successful, and then we'll see where it goes after that, but step by step, as we say.
Thanks, Greg.
We'll have one more from
Thank you.
Scott.
You mentioned Giovinco. Do you see any commonalities in the types of things that Puig brings to you that Giovinco brought to you in Toronto? Giovinco more of a scorer, I take it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, with Sebastian, he's certainly more of a forward. He doesn't like to get too far away from the goal, too wide, too deep, because at the end of the day, for him, it's putting the ball in the back of the net, and he lives for that. I see with Riqui, he's a connector, he's a combiner, he's a guy who picks up the ball, plays off of people. I see, a guy with some final pass action that's also going to find himself into the final thing, but I don't know that he lives to score the goal like Sebastian lives to score the goal. I see him as a guy who lives for all of the pieces of the game that come with setting up attacks, building attacks, combining off of people, moving the game around, getting to the final action, and being a real creator in that way.
Hey, Greg, looking at the final part of the season, it sort of is a sprint to the final line here. What's the attitude of the group, and what are your thoughts on Vancouver on Saturday?
Yeah. The attitude of the group this week has been great. I think there was obviously frustration, but as we start to get some of our midfield pieces back, Victor's coming back, Daniel Aguirre's coming back, Riqui starts to come hopefully as soon as possible into the equation. Some of those pieces and some of those faces and names start to, again, they add to what we're trying to do. And the guys have worked hard and they've been competitive. They know the situation, which is where we have a game in hand on most teams, which we don't even consider, but the fact of it is we have 11 games. 9 of our 11 games are against teams that are in the immediate dogfight with us. You win any of those games, you put that team 3 points behind you, and you keep moving forward, and it's just one at a time that you got to take care of each of those games. So, we're not in a bad position. We've had a stretch of not the best momentum. But the reality is when we look across the field from us this weekend and it's Vancouver, it's a one-off sort of final. You're trying to get yourself one step ahead of them, and that's what we do one at a time. And now, again, I feel like with the pieces that are coming in, the clarity of our vision, how we want to play, and some consistency hopefully can really settle in, and we just keep building off of that one game at a time. So I think the group really sees that as an opportunity, and that's where we're at. And for me, I've said this since 2016 in my experience in the league. Up until about the last 10 games, you're positioning yourself for the final stretch, but the last 10 games in the season is you're determining where you finish in the table. And for me, positions 1 and 2 are probably out of the equation as it relates to the Western Conference, but every other position is wide open. And so it's about finding that, for us, it's about finding that stability on the defensive side, getting ourselves into games, stop conceding the early goals, doing that the right way. And whenever we do that, then our records can speak for itself if we can get on the right side of the game. So those are the key things that we continue to focus on. In terms of Vancouver, they're a good team. I mean, they've had good stretches. They've had some tough stretches. They play in a 3-4-3. They are very zonal, well sort of organized a team. They have some gaps, but they can also hurt you in some ways. So they're one of those teams. It's, for me, it's a very MLS thing, which is they're hard to beat. They don't give up a ton of chances. They're hard to beat, and they have their ways that they go about getting goals. They have players who can hurt you, but they have a little bit more of a unique style, I think, than some of the teams that we've encountered in the season. But we see what our opportunities are, and we have to close our gaps, on the defensive side, but we see what our opportunities are as we play them. But it's a head-to-head final in a way, one at a time, and that's kind of how we look at each one of these games, and that's the approach.
We have 2 more on Zoom. We'll go with Josh Gessman and then finish off with Kevin Baxter.
Hey, Greg, I wanted to know your thoughts on Javi and Julian playing in the All-Star game for 45 minutes and what their availability would be this weekend.
Yeah, they're both home. They both have been in for the day of training and mostly just doing their recovery and all that kind of stuff. They'll both be available for the game. I knew Julian was going to play 45. I was under the impression that Javier was going to play 30. So was he. As you saw on the substitution, he started to take the armband off. So the extra 15 minutes was a little surprise for both of us. But he'll be fine in terms of turning around. We were able to get them home right immediately after the game, so they'll just get some rest and they'll be ready for the weekend.
All right, Kevin? Kevin, can you hear us?
Yep, there we go. Hey, Greg, can you hear me now? Sorry
Can
about
hear
that.
you, Kevin.
Little technical difficulty. We've only been doing this Zoom thing 3 years. You think I would figure it out by now? At some point, I'm going to have to
happens.
ask you about where the lime green came from. I see everyone wearing that.
Green,
But
this is
I-
the new gray, I think, these days.
I don't know whether
Mint
I
is
like
the
it
new
or
gray.
not. It's growing on me. It's growing on me. I wanted to ask you, I know that Bale was sort of linked to, Gareth Bale was kind of linked to the team a little bit last year, and that obviously wasn't going to work for a lot of different reasons. But there are some stories going around that in between the time that you decided the Pavone thing wouldn't work out and you decided to go with Douglas Costa, during that period, there was a chance maybe for the Galaxy to get Gareth Bale, and you decided to go with Costa. Is there any truth to that? Did you talk about Bale last winter?
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is Gareth's name has been thrown out for probably a year and a half or 2 years, probably not just to us, probably some other clubs. You don't necessarily know who exactly is presenting these players and whether the situations are real or not real, or whether the timing is right or not right. So it's not just with Gareth, it's with many players that those situations occur. So I don't know enough about the timing specifically and whether he was available or not available, or what the scenario would have looked like. But I would say, and I would confirm, that his name had been thrown out from various people, not always the same person, over the last couple of years. From, anytime a player's I think in a position where they're not playing a lot for their club and they're getting a little bit older, then their names get pushed out to us. I could probably name 30 of those, Gareth being one of them.
And we know they always wind up being linked to the Galaxy too, but in your mind, would it be unfair then to say that you took Costa over Bale? Is that too cut and dried for this?
Yeah, way too cut and dry. It's never that simple, and the timing was never exactly between the two of those guys at that given moment, that's for sure.
Okay, thank you.
You got it.
Thanks for your time, Greg.
You're welcome, thank you.